Welcome to Options Basics. In this session, I'll be discussing some real options examples. I'm going to discuss the definition of bid and ask and how those represent the buy and sell positions on the profit and loss profiles for call options. I'm also going to go over how to draw a P&L profile chart and how to calculate the break-even price for a chosen strike. I'm going to show you how you can use the thinkorswim trade analysis tool to look at a chosen call option P&L profile. Finally, I'm going to talk about the options premium and how that translates to the options price and what that means for the options time value. In this section, I want to illustrate what the bid and ask on the options chain means by showing some examples. As I go through this, one example I'll use is the uncovered calls, but this is just for illustration purposes only. Keep in mind, we're not talking about options trading strategies right now. I'm not saying that you want to place straight calls or an uncovered call. Later on, this will make more sense, and I'll explain why you don't want to do that in most cases. All I'm doing here is simply going over some of the mechanics of how to look at trades and how to better understand the options chain in the context of the position you're desiring to take. For any given option, there's always a bid and an ask. Again, this has to do with the fact that for any given option, there has to be a buyer and a seller. The bid represents the amount that the call option buyer is willing to purchase the call option for. The ask, on the other hand, represents the amount that the call seller is willing to sell the call option for. Let's go ahead and go inside the thinkorswim platform. Again, we're looking at the 22 January options chain for AMD. Notice first that for the 87.5 strike, this is the one we're going to look at. We're going to look at the 87.5 strike on the call side here. Notice first that for this strike, when you add together the intrinsic and the extrinsic value of this option, here we have the intrinsic and extrinsic. When you add these together, you get 242. Also, if you add the bid and the ask and divide by 2, so here's the bid and the ask. If you take these two and average them, if you add the bid plus the ask and then divide by 2, you get the same thing. You get 242. This is known as the mid price. The call option buyer will always try to get the best price or a price that is lower than the mid, and is why the bid is lower than the mid price. Similarly, the seller will always try to get the highest price, and is why the ask, in this case the 245, is higher than the mid price. The difference between the bid and ask, or how wide the bid and ask is known as the spread. And this really depends on how many buyers and sellers are in the market for this option, or on how liquid this option market is. If there's less money being traded in these options, the wider the spread. You don't want to trade options that have huge bid-ask spreads. You want to stay in liquid options with narrow spreads like the one I'm showing here. So with each strike, you have the option to either buy a call or to sell a call. If I hover over the ask price here for the 87.5 strike, the hover state on this pointer shows buy. You can see the little icon here that says buy. And if I hover over the bid price, the hover state for the mouse pointer indicates sell. If I buy the 87.5 strike at 245, I would be choosing to take this particular long call position that I'm going to illustrate here. If I buy the 87.5 strike at 245, I would be choosing to take this long call position illustrated here. Remember that the 245 price is the price per share. Because each contract controls 100 shares, you have to multiply the price by 100, and in this case we get 245 times 100 is equal to $245. This price represents the maximum loss I will incur if the market price at the time of closing the option is at or below the chosen strike. So in this case, if the price closes at or below the 87.5 strike, then I would incur the maximum loss of $245 if the price closes anywhere in this range. And that's what the 245 represents. We multiply by 100, we get 245. This is the debit at the time that I purchased the option, and it also represents the max loss. I can't lose more than this. Okay, so if the price can go to zero, the most I can lose on this option is $245. Okay, so now that we have a better understanding of bid and ask price and how that translates to the call option P&L, let's take a look at the profile for the 87.5 strike long call. We right-click under the ask, then select buy single, We're presented with this order entry where we can see the details. Okay, under spread single, single means that this is a single leg. When you purchase a single long call in this example, or maybe if you purchase a single short call or a single long put or a single short put, in this example we're purchasing a single long call, you are purchasing a single spread. It's just one leg. Under the side header, it says buy, and that confirms that we're taking the buy position and that it corresponds to the long call profile with the debit. Then here we can also confirm the number of contracts. We're purchasing one contract. You can always change the amount by using the plus and minus. Also, we see the stock symbol. We confirm the stock symbol is AMD. We also confirm the expiration date, which is 22 January. And then also the strike. We are purchasing a call at the 245 per contract. Also, make sure the order says limit, because this will tell the broker that you don't want to buy the option at anything higher than 245. So if you place your order, you don't want your order to get filled at 250. Say for example, if there's a market surge and the price all of a sudden goes up to 260, they'll fill it at 260 and you won't have any idea that that's what happened until you see your summary. So when you place the order, make sure you keep it at limit, and that will ensure that your order will get filled at 245 or less. Now, we're looking at the 87.5 strike at 245. Let's go ahead and draw the profile for this specific long call option so I can go over how to calculate the break-even price. The 245 represents the debit paid at the time you open the option. We're purchasing the 87.5 strike, so we know that this is the inflection point for the graph. So when we draw the graph, we draw the horizontal line with the prices. Here's the 87.5 strike. We know that that is the inflection point for the long call. What about the break-even price? How do we determine that? Well, we take the strike price, which is 87.5, plus the 245 that we're paying for the option, and we get 89.95. Okay, this is your break-even price. So the break-even price is the strike plus the 245 plus the 245 that you're paying as a debit for the option. That gives you 89, excuse me, this should say 89.95. 89.95. Now that we have the price of the option, 245, the strike price, which is the graph's inflection point, and break even, we can draw the profit and loss chart. So now that we have the 87.5 strike and the break even. Now we can draw the P&L profile by, and we'll do this again here, basically drawing a line starting at 245 going to 87.5 strike, and then from the inflection point we're going to draw it to go through. Now we're just kind of estimating, eyeballing it here because we're between 89.5 and 90, but we're trying to get the 89.95 as the break-even price, and this is basically how we would do it. Now that we understand how to draw this profile on paper, let's go ahead and look at the actual options profile using Thinkorswim's Analyze Trade feature. Right-click on the order summary and select Analyze Trade, and that brings up the profit and loss profile for this option. This brings up the P&L profile for the chosen call option. Remember earlier when I stated that the pricing of an option includes the premium or the time value of the option? Well, the purple profile here represents the option's current profit and loss curve, taking into account the option's additional premium. As the option gets closer to its expiration date, the purple graph will bend closer and closer to the teal colored graph until it disappears and it merges into the teal graph on the day of expiration. Notice that the current break even at around $88 here. So for the purple graph, this is the current profile, and the break even for this chart is at around $88. If you notice, if you take a look at this area here, this shows you the current date for the purple graph, and then the date after expiration for the teal graph. When I hover over the price to the break even, right now for the purple it says 44 cents. That's as close to break even as I can get it. On right underneath that here we see that the price says 88.01. Okay, let's go ahead and draw that right around here. This is the price right around the break even. Okay, but on the expiration date, the break even will be at roughly, if we follow the teal graph and we try to pinpoint the break even for that graph, it ends up being around $89.96. The difference is $1.96. And if you go back to the option chain, we see that the extrinsic value, or the premium, is $1.97. What this tells you is that the price of AMD has to move up by $1.96 from 88 to 89.96 in order for the option to break even if you decide to hold on to the option until just before expiration. So in summary, the bid is the price the buyer wants to buy the option at. Ask is the price the option seller wants to sell the option for. Bid-ask spread is the difference between the bid and the ask. This is determined by market liquidity. Mid-price is the average of the bid and the ask. For long calls, the break-even price is the strike price plus the ask price. The ask price is the debit paid to buy the option. For long puts, the break-even price is the strike price plus the bid price. The bid price is the credit received when selling the long put option. And premium is the time value of the option, which decays to zero when the option expires. The call buyer's premium is the amount the price has to move between the time of option purchase and the time of expiration in order for the option to break even. So thank you for watching this session of Options Basics.